you know, when we first did the project, it was just, can art save a community? And Melorra was persistent that something needed to be added to this project. It couldn't just be, you know, asking that question. And we kind of, you know, toiled about it, what do we do? And Ubuntu came into the space. And it's really all about, beyond all of the definitions, it's all about putting compassion in front of that question so that you can have a space to fall in conversation and not be riddled with making yourself wrong for not knowing certain things or not understanding certain things, but so that we can have real conversations and be present to what's happening in our communities. Again, it's a discussion about art, evolution, and other factors that affect our communities. We've been on a quest to discuss all of these things that really have a tendency to tear us apart, quite frankly. And so we've been hosting dinner conversations. We have a radio program on KPOO Tuesday nights, and we lend a lot of space for activists, artists, community organizers to contribute their genius and what they're creating in a lot of these different spaces. This was at Omi Gallery in Oakland. We just started having the conversation at the Red Poppy Art House. We're doing a series there once a month, and we're going into the space genuinely because it is a predominantly white audience. When the Poppy first came, it was considered a gentrified space. And so out of really being authentic and really wanting to put himself at issue, Todd Brown really wanted to use the space for that. So we hosted a dialogue where, you know, we're just saying, this is what the experience of Black and brown folks are. How can we really get that present and have you turn to your communities and talk and change the dynamics that the silence is just brewing? It's okay to kill. It's okay to do whatever you want to Black and brown bodies. So we've just been, you know, having this I'm looking at our time, y'all. We've just been having this engagement in a lot of different spaces. We want to really create healthy communities, healthy dialogue. And why exhibitions? We have a really unique opportunity to get a lot of voices, a lot of input, a lot of insight from people who aren't considered critical thinkers or the geniuses of our times or revolutionaries of our times. And there are folks like, you know, sister here and the brother who are in the communities doing the work, really creating what we hear, what we know, what we experience. And those are the folks who really should be listened to when we're creating rules, regulations, legislation, and stuff like that.
And what came up for us when we were asked to do this, I struggled with thinking, wait a minute, you know, we're curators. Does that mean that we're media makers? Like, what does that mean in the space of this dialogue? And what came up for us was that we build a platform for all mediums to be in one space and understood to tell one story. That can even, you know, spawn to tell other stories. So it really got me present to how powerful that is. Not that we're gatekeepers, but it's the platform is there.
Mm-hmm. And from having the dialogue around, you know, what the impacts are, we were able to really give confidence in the space for organizations like the Oakland Public Conservatory, who was given 30-day notice. And they've been in this space, I want to say, for 10 years. And they were given a 30-day notice to get all of their stuff out of the space and find somewhere else to be. Never mind what they created in the community, never mind how many children, they were really a hub for the community. And so if you could imagine how devastating that was, but also having the Ubuntu conversation already in place, it gave Angela Wellman and some others a space to talk about what was happening and a space to be empowered that, yeah, you know, we're being displaced, but we're also united in community. We also can call upon our folks to figure out the next step, but not kind of go into a cubbyhole like we normally do and shut ourselves out and not invite, you know, people to really empower us. So just shifting how we normally do things, you know, as creators, organizers, it can be very lonely work. No matter how many people you know, it can be very lonely work to feel that responsible for community. You know, everything you shared, I understood, because you do. I mean, you really feel like it's on your shoulders. And so a lot of times it keeps you from asking for help. It keeps you from going to your community and falling and having dialogues and picking yourself up. So we, you know, just really wanted to keep that going. And also from holding the conversation at Omi Gallery with Ashara, she created No Art based on what was happening in the political scene. In Oakland, they had like 15 mayoral candidates, and none of them had art really as a prominent thing of their agenda. So the conversation became, okay, no art. What if there was no art? How would we respond? And the thing is, we know that's not gonna happen because as artists, we just create. I can sit there in 3 minutes, I'm gonna think to doodle. For many of you, you're gonna wonder and imagine and create something. You know, you're gonna think of a speech, you'll probably have a new film going. Like, we're all, that's what we do. We don't know what else to do. So they know we're not gonna not do it, but we're being taken advantage of as an art community. So exposing that too, you know, we go into neighborhoods where nobody wants to go, we make it look cool, we bring it back up, all of a sudden it's attractive and we can't even afford to enjoy our labor. So it's often a gentrification tool. So just putting that in the space. And really, we all play a part. You know, looking at our impact, you know, getting really frustrated, you know, can art save the community? We had to take a step back and think, what are the things that we do personally that affect our ability to really live up to the things we say we're committed to? You know, how do we behave when people don't respond the way we think they're gonna respond about our projects? Or how do we behave with difficult personality types? And it has an impact. You know, if I'm questioning if you want to work with me, I'm like, all right, but that's work not getting done. And it shows up in a lot of different spaces. It shows up in our communities. People get really resigned. Oh, it's too tough, it's too hard, I don't want to. I don't want to get political. But yet, a child doesn't see you as a possibility. What you do for a living, your personality, how you are. That absence is felt somewhere.
How many of you resonate with that though? Like, I mean, you can think beyond. So right now we just created community in this room. And then you have a home. So then you got to think about, what do you really contribute in your community at your home? Then you have a work environment. What do you really contribute in your work environment? And so when you think about what Melonie is like building, whether it's that you're resigned or whether it's that, you know, you want things to go your way, so you try to bully the whole conversation or bully the different platforms that people need to vote on, whatever it is, we all play a role. And so it's about really getting present to the factors that are there and really looking at how we can be a stain, and not just for ourselves, but for the whole. Because we're losing so much because we didn't buy their property, or because we ignored those kids on the bus because they were too loud, and all we're gonna do is talk about them. We don't get into their life. The list goes on and on. Yeah.
And just being present to, and being empowered by, you know, this is our job. You know, the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. You know, and that's what we've seen when you look back at a lot of movements. It's the art, it's the music, it's the imagery of those movements that really, for those of us who were too young for certain periods of time, we fell in love with it because we heard the music, we felt what was going on. Or we could see something in the work of an artist like Emory Douglas for the Black Panther movement. You know, you were just inspired. Even if you didn't get it, you know, on whatever level, you got what was happening there. So again, this project is creating a book, a documentary film, and it's also a spiritual, for us it's a spiritual movement for something to really change, for conversation to really result into action.
And also for preservation. And that's where the save word comes from, because truly we wanted to figure out how we could take a space in the Fillmore, and quite frankly, all over this country, how can we open small boutique museums that will allow people to preserve the histories that are being painted over bulldoze over, and all of that. So that's the true epitome of this project that we really hope is possible.
So just one community at a time, one exhibition at a time, engaging communities, starting with the questions, building the trust, listening, taking the time. It's our joy to do that work and then put it on the wall so that people are present to the entire experience. So that's how we have been doing the work. And in the context of Black Lives Matter and all of that, it's really just about getting people present to what they say, what they don't say, and what you really mean in your actions or lack thereof. So, thank you.